Welcome back to the Lars Larson Show, 35 minutes after the hour, and a pleasure to be with you, and always good to bring on a member of the opposition party to have a nice little chat tonight. Bob Weiner is with us, National Democratic strategist and former White House staff member. Mr. Weiner, thanks for taking the time.
It's a pleasure, and thanks for the respect that you show us, Lars, to allow us to join your show.
See, I find that it makes great radio and great public service, which, of course, is what the radio is there to begin with, has been for, the better part of the last century. Yeah. And I just figure that we always say naysayers go to the head of the line, and you appear to be one of the naysayers. You say that the job killer health repeal bill is the wrong thing to do because of what happened in Arizona. Can you tie those two together?
Well, the title, the tone, and the substance of the bill are wrong in the wake of the Arizona tragedy. I don't think you can call something a killer, especially something that has the intention of being a good thing, and call it a killer. And especially when the provisions of the bill, Lars, include expanding mental health care and allowing mental health care to be parallel to physical care, mental health, and substance abuse, given that that was the Arizona killer's backdrop, and that's something we really have to have a conversation about. And you add that, Lars, to the fact that the bill stops the block for pre-existing conditions. It gives seniors full drug coverage. It keeps your kids, you're up to 26, on health care. My 3 interns here told me they'd all lose their health care if the bill's repealed. It gives lifetime coverage, and it gives preventive care, which just yesterday on Fox and Friends, a conservative network, a Michigan County executive said that he saved a quarter of their health care by allowing the kind of free preventive care that the bill authorizes for the first time.
Well,
so how is this a bad bill?
I got to tell you something. You've rattled off a raft. We can go through those each one individually because, for example, I think that the bill conceptually is wrong because it gives people the wrong incentives. Let me give you an example. A young person, a young, otherwise healthy person in his 20s has no incentive whatsoever to sign up for this health care, and I'll tell you why. Because if he doesn't sign up and nothing happens, he saves money. Now, he may pay a small fine, but it's much smaller than the premiums. If he does sign up, the law says that to somehow equalize the costs between young people and older people typically cost 6 times as much to insure, those above 65, than those in their 20s. But the law says the difference can't be any more than 3 to 1. So they've artificially tried to, if you'll forgive the phrase, redistribute wealth or income by saying younger people have to pay more so older people can pay less. Now, that may be warm and fuzzy if you're doing it for a member of your own family, but if the government is ordering that you, a 20-something, will pay more so the older person can pay less, you're having some of your income shifted out of your pocket into theirs. So you just say, well, I'm not going to sign up. Why? Because if I get seriously ill, I'll just come in after I'm ill, and my pre-existing condition will be covered. And if nothing happens to me, which is pretty typical for people in their 20s to have no serious health problems, they're typically some of the cheapest people to insure, then you have no problem and you save money. Why would you build a system that has incentives against health care? And then on top of that, it's counter to preventative care. For example, if somebody told me, Lars, you got to lose 50 pounds or you're going to pay another $100 a month, or Lars, you have to do this or have to do that, it would give me incentives that are concrete, and usually people respond to concrete incentives. In this case, if you get fat and lazy and have health problems of one kind or another, somebody else is going to pay the tab. The person who stays healthy and fit and everything else gets no financial benefit, and the person who doesn't stay that way has no financial penalty. That, again, does not seem like a great way to design a system, and that's before we get to any of the questions about covering illegals and some of these other issues.
Right. Well, your point is well taken. It's a good discussion point, Lars. But the fact of the matter is you have to have the healthy people to pay the sick people. That's why we have the Interstate Commerce Clause in the Constitution, that it's in the general welfare for the government to make sure that everyone is covered. We were paying...
But you're not. I just pointed out to you that if you were in your 20s, you would have every incentive to say, to hell with that health plan, I'll pay the fine, go uninsured, and I'll be fine. I'll save 15 years of premiums. When I hit my mid-30s, I can walk in and get coverage. Even if I get sick, I can walk in and get coverage. Where is the incentive for any young person to sign up for this ridiculously expensive insurance when the positive financial benefit is by not signing up for it.
It isn't ridiculously expensive compared to current premiums, first of all, because premiums were going up 10% a year, and they were just going up dramatically, up and up and up and up, going 100% every decade, because the insurance companies are making 40 to 50% increasing profit every year and just ripping us off. So something had to be done. So there had to be the volume control, the way that the government is now overseeing it. And now for the first time,
the volume control, what do you mean?
80% of the benefits have to go to health care, not to insurance administration.
And guess what that did? That caused all the mini-med plans that cover a lot of low-income workers out there that they can afford to become so expensive that McDonald's back in September went to the federal government and said, you impose these requirements, this 80 or 85% return requirement, and we will, and our mini-med plans, well, 80. Our mini-med plans will go away. So what did the government do? They've so far granted over 220 waivers. I haven't even checked lately. Maybe it's up to 300 by now. And why? Because the requirements were ridiculous.
Well, there have to be some growing pains when you have a massive problem like the insurance companies costing us twice as much as any other country on earth, and still being 49th in life expectancy, so we're not getting the best care. That actually
no, but go back to the point. If this is a universal system where the benefit can only be derived by forcing everyone to be in it, but we have hundreds of companies that employ hundreds of thousands of workers who've now been exempted, then we're not meeting the very condition that you said is necessary for the benefit to happen.
95% of companies are able to really benefit on this, and the largest insurer in the world, United Health Group, just added 75,000 new customers. Senator Reid put that out today for their company because of this bill. And there are 160 Republican amendments in this bill giving tax breaks to small businesses, and we should be able to hire actually about 300,000 people because of that. So there's a lot of good.
Who's going to hire the 300,000 people?
To be worked out, and there's a lot of good.
Mr. Weiner, who's going to hire the 300,000 people you just mentioned? You're doing what?
The companies are, because they
Which
have
companies? The insurance companies?
For their health care.
No, the insurance companies?
Small businesses.
We'll be able to hire 300,000 people.
That is the estimate by economists. That's correct.
Yeah, even though their cost of insurance has now gone up. I don't see how
their cost has not gone up because the insurance companies were so ripping everybody off with increases, the 49% this year in California that they threatened.
Mr. Weiner,
pressured.
I got to tell you something. Mr. Weiner, every day I hear from small business people who say, my premiums just went up. And I said,
I know.
No, but these people they don't have an incentive to lie to me. They call up and say, I just got... My insurance agent just called me
to oppose government. They do have an incentive because it's Obamacare. But let's get to the merits.
Well, so you just think for fun they're getting on the phone and calling, and when their health premiums are actually going down, they're calling me and lying and saying they're going up.
Well, the question is, are they really going down? Their premiums. First of all, don't expect premiums to go down because of the bill. You can expect them to go up less rapidly, and that's an important difference.
Well, that's what I just said, though. Their premiums, but their premiums are going up, and some of it I've heard from the insurance.
Not because of the bill.
Well, hold on a second, Mr. Weiner. Logically, I know
Bob is good. Lars.
Bob, okay, it's Lars. Bob and Lars. So
you and I have had several shows, and we're friends.
I know, but here's the thing: when I've covered mandates before at the state level, and I think they apply at the federal level, when the federal government walks in and says every one of these plans must include the following things, must cover the following people, you can't say add everybody who's uninsured and add everybody with a pre-existing condition, but do it at no net increase. There is nothing about that is going to cost less. So when an insurance company is told you're going to add all of these new clients, some of them will already have illnesses that have to be covered, and you're going to cover all of these additional things, and there's no lifetime cap, and there are caps on out-of-pocket, which is all included in the bill. How can you do that less expensively?
Well, I'm going to give you the answer.
All right.
Again, the Michigan County executive yesterday on Fox News said he dropped his health care from $50 million to $38 million a year because of the preventive care, the kind of which the bill now provides.
No,
you can stop illnesses.
But
so
Mr. Weiner,
Mr. Weiner, cost savers in the bill.
I know. I want to take us to the other side of the break because I want to ask you about those cost savers and how they miraculously have appeared so quickly, because most of those cost savers, let's talk about this on the other side, but I'll frame the question for you. Most of those cost savers are the kinds of things that work over time. They do not deliver in a week or a month.
Last year in Michigan.
How did it happen so quickly? What disease mechanisms were prevented?
He's stopping breast cancer. He's stopping heart attacks. He's stopping having to pay for the loss of the employees and all of the costs associated with that by preventive health care. That's a legitimate and really important point.
We'll be back in just a moment. Bob Weiner is with me, Democrat strategist and a big fan of Obamacare. I'm not, and your phone calls are welcome. 866-439-5277. You're listening to The Lars Larson Show.